different ones that stumble across me might kind of wonder why I do what I do. Why do I make these videos? Why do I write some of the things that I write? And I figured maybe it was time for me to put something out on video that explains why. Given my present circumstances and situations and my limitations, for one, this is a way for me to at least be a productive part of society. It's a way for me to offer my experience and my observations in order to try to help other people find their own truths, to encourage other people to question the status quo, to question the version of reality that is presented through mainstream media and our education system itself. It is a way for me to encourage people to share their own research, to overcome maybe their own fears of speaking about things that, as a nation and a society, we really need to talk about. It's to encourage people to not be intimidated, to be willing to put themselves out there in order to try to help us all ascertain what reality really is, what's really going on with different things, so that we can be the informed public that our forefathers envisioned when they created the republic that they created for us. Now, of course, a lot of people are of the mind now that, it's a democracy. It's not what was originally intended. And if you don't believe that, honestly, dig into it. I think it was Benjamin Franklin himself, in reply to a lady that ended up running into him shortly after the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were signed. And she had asked him, basically paraphrased, well, what kind of a system have you created for us? And his reply, again paraphrased, was basically, a republic, ma'am, if you can keep it. Now, for those that don't know the difference, democracy is a mob rule. A republic is something a little different, and there is a difference between them, really. Again, look into it. So, I do what I do as well because of being a vet, because of having children that I want a better future for, and things that I see going on that get in the way of that. I see a nation and a society at this point in time that is just radically different from what many of us were taught it was supposed to be. I see a society overall that through the better part of a decade, going into two now, that as the result of constant fear-mongering has become shut off, closed in, very leery, very suspicious. And as the result of this leeriness and suspicion and lack of trust, it is becoming a society where, unlike when I was growing up, people tended to better look out for one another. we've lost a lot of that. There are very few people, because of the fear, that are willing to put themselves out there. As the result, there is a lot of extra suffering that presently goes on that would not go on if people were more involved socially in their communities and other things. In my day, growing up, that's the way it once was. You knew your neighbors. You basically looked out for one another, and if a neighbor needed a hand with something, there was never an issue with one neighbor going to another and asking for a hand or asking for some help. We live in a society today, because of all that other stuff, that oftentimes doesn't seem to happen. And there are repercussions because of this. The technology at this point in time as well, there's so many distractions. There's so much struggle as well because of economical circumstances that, pretty much in ways force people to work longer hours, multiple jobs, just in order to make ends meet. Um, it's things that have caused a lot of devastation to the society, in my opinion, based upon my 40 plus years of observation and experience. The question becomes where this stuff comes from, what's causing it, and why. And from my digging and research, it is not good things. There just seems to be a certain subsegment of society overall, and this is worldwide, that they have a deep-seated greed that just knows no limits, no bounds, and it seems like society, because of what we put on pedestals and what we use as yardsticks to determine our success, it's creating and it's perpetuating the hoarding of more and more things. People that are disconnected from their fellow human beings. It's a really big mess, and we didn't get here overnight. But in order for people to understand this, and in order for people to be able to unite and come together, in order to get some semblance back of the society we once had, there are certain fears that need to be overcome. And the only way to overcome fear is to face it and to realize where it's coming from. So, in large part, these are the reasons why I do this. It is a way for other people to know that they're not alone as well. That because they may share similar ideas, or they have come to similar conclusions, that they're not necessarily the crackpots or the conspiracy theorists or tinfoil hat wearing people that the conditioning has taught us to hurl such character smearing labels at people that are able to think a little bit differently than the majority. And as we continue to do this, and we continue to share with people, being strong enough to stand against their character assassination, smearing jargon, our numbers grow. as more continue to go through the same kind of questioning that us tinfoil hat wearers have gone through, and they slowly start to strip back the illusionary veils that have been pulled before our eyes, they start to find the same answers as we found. And as our numbers grow, it becomes more proof that we're not any of the things that they try to suggest that we are. And of course, there's safety in numbers. So I just figured it was time to throw something out there to people so that they knew and understood why I do what I do. And for those of you that think I'm a conspiracy theorist or a tinfoil hat, mentally disturbed human being, you're welcome to that view. But I invite any of you that have that view, find your own truth and realities to some of the questions that I put out there, some of the answers that I put forth. And if you don't agree with the answers that I try to give you to explain the questions, then find your own truth. But don't be lazy and dismissive with the, well, you're just unstable bullshit, and not bother looking into it. I could care less what you think I am. But what I do care about is that you learn to question. Because we've had far too many years where the wool's been pulled over our eyes. And in order to keep that from happening, people need to start taking that suspicion that they have conditioned us to focus on one another, and you need to take that suspicion and use it against the ones that they conditioned us to inherently trust. So, some things for you to think about. Find your own truths.